Four wide receivers I'm going to be giving a second chance to in 2025. These are dudes that have lost value. They hurt us last season.
I'm hurt.
I know how it is once a player starts to fall off, or maybe you start them or you draft them, they're bad. You banish them to the shadow realm, bro. You never want to touch them again. I understand, but we need to let go of stuff. That's how we find value in fantasy football. So I'm Ron from Never Lucky. Let's strap in, boys. We're hopping into this first player, and it's Marvin Harrison Jr., man. In the third round, Marvin Harrison's going around guys like JSN, Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin, then Garrett Wilson, Mike Evans. Couple good names, couple of dudes. I think, we might be able to move them up a little bit. Let's talk about it. Wide receiver 29 in total points in 2024, with wide receiver 27 in expected points. So he was about on par with expected and actual points. Whatever. He had 8 touchdowns last season, 7 of which came in the end zone. That's something that we need to remember about him, man. And he was the top receiving option for Arizona, dude. He was their primary alpha wide receiver. Trey McBride got his stuff. He got his work. But for the most part, it was Marvin Harrison getting most of the down the field stuff. Now, a year 2 breakout is possible because of the following reasons. I think this offense under Drew Getzing should get it right, dude. They're going to realize that they have this stud wide receiver, drafted 4th overall in 2024. He was running a lot of out routes, a lot of like outside stuff. He was doing no inside breaking routes, no intermediate breaking routes. Those are the types of highly productive routes that wide receivers usually get a lot of fantasy points from, man. Think Jamar Chase, man. He gets those in breaking routes where he can then bust it for big gains, right? For chunk gains. Marvin Harrison is getting none of that. He's getting no manufactured touches. And this dude just has too much pedigree. Supposedly he bulked up. Maybe that should help his separation issues. Just the man couldn't come down with contested catches. He couldn't separate, but his usage just remained great the entire season. So I think he's going to turn it around. I think in year 2, which is kind of a cheat code for wide receivers. I know it's not necessarily the case anymore. It's not like really a secret anymore that year 2 wide receivers, those are the types of guys we really want to be targeting. Those are the breakout wide receivers, right? I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the perfect value at the moment. Third down is still a tiny bit rich. I'm hoping that his value goes down a little bit more throughout the offseason, but we just need to wait and see. I think he's going to be like a clear wide receiver 2 with some wide receiver 1 upside. I think he's a very safe pick. I think his floor is safe. I think he does have the upside if this team just uses him in better ways, right? So the next player you guys probably already saw, I was showing it on the screen, but it's Jalen Waddle, 5th round. He's going around guys like Chris Godwin, Deebo Samuel, Chris Olave, Rome Odunze, Jacoby Myers. Again, a couple of names that I like there, but I think Jalen Waddle sticks out to me. And let's talk about it. The Dolphins' offense was so fucking conservative in 2024. It really limited Waddle. Like, I'm just going to plain out say it, man. He's only 26 years old. He had a top 12 wide receiver season already in 2023, I believe, or 2022 even. Or 2023, it was 2 seasons ago. Tyreek Hill's 31 now. He's recovering from like multiple fucking surgeries, and he's facing a potential suspension. I don't think he's going to get suspended, but the dude is like turning into Antonio Brown, man. He's got like full CTE. He's blasting people. He called Devon Achane a bad third down back, take him out of the game. I know he was kind of goofing, but I love a good goof. Don't get me wrong, but you're calling out one of your players, even if you're joking. I think there's some truth to it, but nevertheless, it's possible we see kind of a changing of the guard. It's possible we see the shift from Tyreek being the alpha to Jalen Waddle being a lot more involved. I'm not going to say Jalen Waddle is going to be the alpha if Tyreek's on the field. Basically, there's like 3 laws in life, right? Death, taxes, and Tyreek Hill is a beast. Tyreek Hill, when he's on the field, nobody can guard him, at least as long as he has that speed he has. So another factor that I really like about the Dolphins and about Jalen Waddle in general is that Jonnu Smith is gone, bro. He's out, dude. They were force feeding this man the ball. They were really trying to keep Tua healthy, so they were doing a lot of like quick dropbacks to Jonnu and to Achane last season. They were fully happy to lose every game doing it. And now that Jonnu's gone, their offensive line is ranked like 31st in the NFL, according to a lot of like preseason rankers, right? It could be wrong. These are just preseason rankers. Like I took a bunch of publications. I created an O-line report. You guys can grab that from my Patreon, by the way. It's free. And I think Jalen Waddle he has so much ceiling, bro. Not Mike Shannon, in a Mike McDaniel coaching tree. He comes from what the fuck am I saying? Mike McDaniel comes from the Shanahan coaching tree. And we saw what Mike McDaniel can do in his first season as a head coach. He was actually a really good coach, bro. He really unlocked this offense, really knew how to use all the talent that he had to their best ability, right? A lot of yards after the catch, quick option routes where they can really bust stuff after the catch, right? That's what we want to see again. he is a high upside bounce back candidate. He's somebody that I really love in the 5th round. Listen, last year we'll take the L, bro. I was saying that we should be drafting Jalen Waddle in the 2nd, 3rd round. I will take the L. I fully accept the L, dude. I will put it in my pocket and walk away. I'll take it. But this season, in the 5th round, I love him, dude. Which brings us to the next player. 1 round later, or 1 round less. Now it's kind of moving around. He's going in like the 6th round, but ADP's got him at wide receiver 35, ahead of Jalen Waddle, actually. Chris Olave. Now, bear with me, bro. I know the man's brain is peanut butter or it's applesauce because he's had so many concussions, but in 6 full games, he averaged 10 fantasy points per game. That's wide receiver 40 pace. Nothing to be excited about. He was out-targeted, outproduced by Rashid Shaheed in limited action. Chris Olave was just bad, but on a per route basis. So when he was on the field and he was running routes, he had 2.15 yards per route run. That's pretty solid. We want anyone over 2 yards per route run is pretty much like a good wide receiver. That's somebody that we're confident in as a talent. But as I put here, he lacked some explosive outputs. He didn't really have a lot of big plays. He didn't really ever show up on red zone. He's kind of forgotten, right? And we're expecting him to still be dealing with a lot of injuries moving forward. But I do think Chris Olave, the fact that you can get him in like the, early or late 5th, early 6th round, the fact that he's such a massive talent, dude. Let's not forget, man, coming out of college, coming out of Ohio State, this dude was highly touted, bro. He was drafted in the 1st round, massive pedigree. He was actually very good in his first season. People were expecting him to really be like the next big thing in the NFL. He just hasn't had a quarterback, dude. The quarterback situation in New Orleans has been absolute butt cheeks. And heading into 2025, the quarterback situation is not going to get much better. But as a talent, I do think he's somebody that you're going to get so late, right? As I mentioned, 5th, 6th round. You can get him so late that even if he doesn't have a good QB, you're betting on talent. We're betting on talent that he's going to turn it around. When you're sitting there in those later rounds, and you're looking at dudes like, Romo Dunze, who's going to be struggling to get targets, Deebo Samuel, who's like, I don't want to kick a man when he's down, but I think he might be past his prime, dude. I think Chris Olave is a nice draft pick that when I grab him over dudes like Myers, over Odunze, over Deebo, I feel good. I feel confident. I feel like, okay, that's a good draft pick where there's some ceiling. There's some potential here that he's going to turn it around. So I wouldn't be very happy if he's like my wide receiver 2. But if he's like my wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3, I'm loaded up at running back. I have a couple wide receivers and I see Chris Olave sitting there. I'm happy to take him, bro. And let's move it along. We're going to get to the next player. It's George Pickens, also in the 6th round at wide receiver 29. So he's actually moving up, dude. George Pickens is on the move. At the beginning of the offseason, you can get George Pickens in like the 7th, 8th round, but no longer, man. He's, wide receiver 14 in production over 6-game stretch in 2024. He actually looked pretty decent. He had a nice little stretch of games where he had a good amount of production. Things were looking to trend his way. And then the Steelers just kind of like their offense just really struggled at many points in the season. And, he finishes with 65 catches, 1,100 yards, surprisingly, 6 touchdowns, wide receiver 28 in total points, wide receiver 30 in points per game. We know what happened last season, bro. They had Russell Wilson, then Justin Fields, and then back to Russell Wilson. And then, it was just a mess, bro. Their offense was just bad. It was decrepit the whole season. But surprisingly, he led the NFL in deep targets. He's now with the Cowboys. The Cowboys coaching staff has said that they really want to use this guy, that he's one of the best ball trackers, in the NFL. He's one of the best deep ball goers, and he's joining a team that is not going to be able to run the ball. The Cowboys have a bottom 10 offensive line. It's not the Cowboys of our dad's time, right? It's not the same Cowboys team that had, such a good O-line, always a good running back like Ezekiel Elliott or DeMarco Murray. This is a Cowboys team that's going to be passing the ball. They're going to be forced to pass. Their defense is bad. Their O-line is bad. I got Dak for potentially leading the NFL in pass attempts. And so do a couple other analysts, right? So CeeDee Lamb's going to be the number 1 guy. Don't get me wrong. CeeDee Lamb's going to be an absolute, target dominator. Last season, he had a 32% target rate, which is insane. That might actually persist. But I think when it comes to big plays, down the field stuff, I do think it's going to be George Pickens. He's going to be getting, I just noticed you guys can't see this fucking entire right side. Anyway, CeeDee Lamb, dude, he's going to dominate target share, but George Pickens is going to be the big play guy. He's elite. He's one of the better deep ball guys. And with that said, man, the Dallas Cowboys receiving room is really empty after Pickens and Lamb. I do think we see a consolidation of targets to those 2 guys. Ferguson's still going to be there getting his stuff, but they don't really have a running back. You know, they have like a bunch of dudes, like a Jadon Blue is taking like first team reps, which by the way, one of my other videos, go to my channel and check it out. I do hype up Jadon Blue a couple times in a couple of different videos. It's looking like he might be the RB1 for this team, bro, out of the gate, which is actually insane. But anyway, I think his ADP is going to keep going up. I think he might be a do not draft if his ADP continues to rise, bro. And people, you know, get super excited. They get too big for their britches. They're taking this dude in like the 5th, 4th round. It's starting to get insane with George Pickens in terms of the hype on Twitter. But nevertheless, man, I do think he's going to return value. Forgive him, bro. Forgive him. I know last season I was targeting him. I thought that the Russell Wilson, George Pickens connection with the deep ball was going to be insane, and ended up being absolutely not insane. It was fucking garbage. But nevertheless, I'm going back to the well with George Pickens, bro. 6th round, I think, is not a bad wide receiver 3 to have on your team. And that does it, bro. Those are the 4 wide receivers that you don't want to regret fading, bro. Do not regret fade, or you will regret fading these guys, because they are going to return value. They're gonna, you know, right the ship. They're gonna be productive yet again in fantasy football. I'm Ron. If you like this video, if I earned a like, I would appreciate it, man. Go down there, like the video, subscribe if you want to catch more of this stuff. If you're new, I got a Discord. I just got to say it, bro. It's pretty empty. It's not very active, but I want to get it active. I want to talk ball. I want to banter with you guys. So if you guys want to join it, head on in there. You can find it on the Patreon. You can join for free. You can also donate a couple shekels for some beer, some coffee. That does it for this video, bro. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.